Okay, we will call to order the July 20th, 2017 Lathrop-Manteca Fire Protection District Board of Directors meeting. At this point, roll call, please. I'm sorry, I should go back to, there were no closed sessions, so that everyone knows. So there is nothing to report because we didn't have a closed session anyway. So with that, roll call.
Thank you. Chairman Gloriana Rhodes.
Here.
Vice Chair Jeremy Coe.
Present.
Director Ty Payton. Director Robert Gleason.
Present.
Director John Gish.
Here.
Thank you.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Declarations of conflict of interest. Seeing none, we will move into presentations. And at this time, we will be introduced to our new office assistant.
Sure. Madam Chair, members of the board, we've got a new office assistant with us. We'd like to introduce Rhoda Bowman. Rhoda was born in Hawaii, raised in the Bay Area. She moved to Lathrop in 2000. Proud mother of 2 daughters, and hobbies include hula dance, Tahitian, and Comic-Con. She's worked at the tire shop for diesel trucks for 6 years. She's been a caregiver for a 92-year-old woman, and she loved it. And she's looking forward to being a part of the LMFD. So please welcome Rhoda.
Welcome.
I'm just happy to be a part of this team and looking forward to learning and just growing with you guys, and just looking forward to being a part of it.
Wonderful.
Yes, welcome. Thank you.
And I must say, because she was the one that stood up, you know, I don't know if everybody noticed, we have wonderful uniforms on display for our office team. We will go now into public comments. Persons who wish to speak to the board regarding an item that is not on tonight's agenda or wish to ask the board to pull an item from the consent calendar may do so at this time. And I do know that we have a public speaker. You know everything else that I would normally read here, so go ahead and come up. And how are you doing? Very good, thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Michelle, and I am the chairperson for the Community Barbecue Committee. We decided to start a first responder appreciation barbecue last year, and it went over so well. We got a lot of positive feedback from the community, the people who attended. We got a lot of positive feedback from the businesses who sponsored us, and most of all, a lot of positive feedback from the first responders themselves. So we decided to make it an annual event. So I'm just here today to formally invite you to come out to our second annual community barbecue on Wednesday, September 13th at Manuel Valverde Park from 5 to 8 p.m. And I have some flyers here that I'll leave for you to take home, so you have all the information with you. And Veda was supposed to be here with me, but I guess she didn't show up. So. Anyway, I just wanted to invite you out. We have we're going to have live music. I've got Dee Ferreira from K-Joy Radio Station's going to come out and MC for me. We've been rolling in the donations, monetary in kind, so it's shaping up to be a really good event. So I hope to see you all there.
Is that August?
September.
September 13th.
Wednesday, September 13th.
Fine.
And I'll
Okay.
leave a stack of flyers here so that
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so it's, okay.
Well, on behalf of the board and the Lathrop-Manteca Fire District, and I know for sure all of our personnel, thank you so very much. And I was there last year, and I was blown away by how, for a first time, it was just unbelievable.
We threw it together in about 3 weeks. We thought, oh, we'll get maybe, 25, 30 people out here. No, I want to say we had close to 1,000, and I'm sure it's going to grow bigger this year because we started a lot earlier, we started advertising a lot earlier, we started planning a lot earlier.
No, and it was so well organized, kudos to you and your team. It was extremely well organized. In fact, I remember the director from Parks and Rec coming out, and he was just beaming. Wow, he kept saying, wow, they did an amazing job. So, and of course,
Thank you. We say thank you, that's why we're doing it.
no, it's just amazing. So, and as our chief is not here, but we have somebody taking his place, so we will make sure that all of our, personnel, all of our firefighters and other personnel hears about it, and we encourage everybody to be there.
Perfect.
And of
Thank you
course,
so
hopefully our board will be able to be
Perfect.
there as well.
I did just remember I have a question. Who do I contact to see if I can get Smokey the Bear to come out to the event?
I don't know if,
If you talk to the office staff, they can contact the right people at the state level to see if that
Okay.
happens.
Okay, because, I'm contacting all the, Splash from the Ports, and Al from the Nuts, and Frankie from the Heat, and I thought, hello, it's a first responder barbecue. We need McGruff, the crime dog, and we need Smokey the Bear. So
yeah.
if you guys could, I'll be in contact with
Absolutely.
you and
Let's
see
get
if
in
we
touch.
can't
We'll-
get Smokey out here.
You bet.
All right?
That's wonderful. Thank you very much, Michelle. Anybody else want to say anything? Huh? Yeah, if not, we're just going to have to connive somebody to... Okay, so we will go, then seeing no other public comments, we will go to consent calendar. If I can have those read.
Consent calendar, item 8.1, June 15, 2017, regular board meeting minutes. Item 8.2, June 27, 2017, special board meeting minutes. Item 8.3, monthly register of warrants. Item 8.4, receive and file June 2017 incident and training report. Item 8.5, receive and file monthly year-to-date budget report.
Thank you. Are there any of these items in the consent calendar to be pulled by either board or the audience?
8.4.
8.4, which is receive and file June 2017 incident and training report. Any others? Okay, so I'll entertain a motion for 8.1, 8.2, 8.3, and 8.5.
I'll move to approve.
I have a motion, is there a second? Okay, motion by Gish, second by Payton. Please do roll call.
Director Gleason,
Aye.
Director Gish,
Aye.
Director Payton,
Yes.
Vice Chair Coe,
Yes.
Chair Rhodes.
Yes. Okay, at this time, we have a public hearing, and...
No, we have 8.4.
Oh, I'm sorry, Director Gleason. 8.4, receive and file June 2017 incident and training report.
On page 2 and page 3 of the training report, so we have actual approved personnel under reserves of 25, and we've dropped to 22. Can you, without violating, their human resource thing, why did they leave?
So those items, we have exit interviews for, and we try to identify if there's anything within the organization that we can improve on. I'm not sure if there's any of those things that are, they're kind of really rolled under the umbrella of personnel items. Are there any of those things, Becky, I know that you sit in on those?
They would fall under personnel, but
If they move on to another department, if they're getting promoted, if they're doing those kind of things?
what you could do is,
Individuals leave the organization in the reserve ranks for various reasons. Some of those things include, if they find other employment that is more stable for them and meets their particular situation in life. Some folks find out that the job just is not for them. Some folks find out that the qualifications and the training regiments are maybe just a little bit too much for their own health. There's various reasons. Other times, we've had reserves that move. They're typically, what we see is that we have individuals that are civic-minded, such as some reserves that we've had for years. I mean, Rick Phillips been a reserve with our organization for over 30 years.
We need to find out how long.
Yeah, and
It's coming up on 40.
yeah, we can
Wow.
certainly look at that. So we've got those civic-minded individuals, and then we also have those individuals that are looking to kind of get their foot in the door as a potential career. Those folks that we find that are looking, that typically are in a younger age bracket, typically, not always, but, their life experience carries them in a lot of different directions. We've had others that have decided that they haven't liked the fire aspect much and would rather go into paramedicine and even in the nursing field. So there's various reasons why they leave.
Yeah, it was brought up during our SWAT, to look at the reserves, because they're our connection to the voting public, kind of, because they live usually within the district, they're working within the district, and to, in regards to retention, and are we doing everything we can in regards to community outreach and those kind of things, and we've had 2 months where we've dropped 3 in the last 2 months, so we need to kind of, stick with the SWAT, see what we're doing, the board, be aware of the numbers and stuff, and keep us all on the same page to retain our people.
I agree, Director Gleason, but in the SWOT also, it identifies that the chief will give periodic, reports. I hate to put staff in a situation where they have to, without being
I didn't do that
able to
for
talk
Larry today.
about, So, out of respect for staff, we will, but then please, I'll make sure that I go back and I look at this, how the SWOT was addressed in terms of reporting, and we'll make sure that happens when it's supposed to happen. Very good. Thank you for being so,
Diplomatic.
Yeah.
One other thing, is since it's a training report, we do get training hours only if it affects overtime. And I think we should actually propose to the board that we have an actual training report as to the training hours in the different areas, not just if it affects the overtime, because it is a training report. So that's something that should be looked into, and as to, so we can know what's going on. I still get comments, well, you guys sleep all night. No, they don't, They'll call out,
I'm sorry, just for clarification, is that something different than the last item on page 6?
Yeah, because see, like on dive, so if you look at page 6, okay, it doesn't break it down, because page 6 is fire investigations, determine cause, training hours, and it lumps them in, where if you look at overtime hours, it breaks it down into the different categories in different areas. Does that make sense?
So you want to know what they trained on?
Right.
So my question is, this isn't just overtime, right? This is the actual hours trained and not the hours that we paid overtime for on page 6.
Affirmative.
Affirmative.
I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah, no. Okay. Instead of affirmative, yes, I get it.
I apologize.
On page 4, where it says overtime hour, or the breakdown in training, it's outside training, live fire, hazmat, USAR, dive, in those areas.
I think when we looked at that particular item, there was really a need to break down the training, miscellaneous, and layoff category that was there. I think the board at the time, and the fire chief as well, thought that, there's such a large quantity of hours there sometimes, what really goes into that? And so at that particular moment,
you're correct, yeah.
yeah, we broke that out to where it was something that was really kind of highlighted where those hours were going, if that makes sense.
And that does make sense. We pay an incentive pay for some people to be trained in certain areas. We have no report that says that they're actually training in those areas. for the public. And if we had that information on page 6, then we would be justifying incentive pay and what we're actually doing in the public. So it's all part of that transparency thing of what are we doing with the taxpayer dollars and what are our guys doing during the day. We look at incident reports, how many times we're going out of district, in district, who are supporting, all of those call volumes there. So all of that's public information, but our training hours is just lumped together in just one number, one figure, 2,100 whatever hours.
If you can, when the chief comes back, we need to revisit how we put it in the SWAT. We did talk about, people leaving, and we talked about training. And maybe that's something that you guys can come back and make some suggestions as to how it can be addressed.
I can talk with the fire chief about that.
Yeah, because this isn't directive or anything, this is, I'm talking to the board, something that, we need to look at as a board.
Yeah, I can talk with the chief about that.
So I just want to be clear on what the request is. So for example, on page 6 for June, there's 1,032 training hours for uniformed personnel.
Yes.
You want that figure broken down into how much of each training? Is that what I'm hearing? You want to know how much of that was dive training, how much was?
Right, as in the categories that are on page 4, which is outside training, live fire exercises, hazmat, USAR, and dive.
Okay.
And just to be clear,
Add EMS.
this is not a directive from the board. This is a comment. This will go back with you. You can discuss it with the chief and come back with some suggestions. It may be impossible to do, and then we will have some more input on it. But at the same time, you bring it to us as to what you think that could be a solution to this question. I know that part of it was that people want to know what the firefighters do. Well, they're, like my son says, they're the ones that yell at you in the grocery store because you're wasting their taxpayer money. They're the ones that kiss your feet because you saved somebody's life. So we're never going to be able to explain, I wouldn't understand it, everything that is done on a daily basis. But I can imagine that just keeping those trucks and that equipment and everything in shape, the firehouse, if a call didn't come for 3 days, there's plenty of work to be done, and we know that 3 days don't go by, without a call, but if that was the case.
Well, I know that firehouse keeps track of all of that, so the information's readily available. But it also, we talked about applying for more grants and stuff, and all of those hours goes into the grant application. So if we're going to get a USAR grant, well, they want to know how many hours are we training, how are we training, what are we training in, all that information. It's in Firehouse. They log it in. And so it's just a matter of, can the board look at it? Can the public look at it and say, wow, they do a lot of USAR training, or they do a lot of dive training, or they do a lot of hazmat training, because we service the city of Lathrop with hazmat. How much training are we doing, in that? So they know that we're paying Measure C money for that hazmat training. Am I making sense? But this is not a referral. This is, I'm talking to you guys, not you guys, So I think it's something to be brought up, down the road.
So, Madam Chair, can we clarify if that's true with staff? Is that recorded and broken down already?
From staff, yes.
So Firehouse has some categories, yes, where it is broken down. There are some generalities within the Joint Apprenticeship Committee and different codes that are used specifically for hours that we utilize for the JACK program. Those programs, those codes, I would just caution that you can wind up very quickly, I suppose, with a very unruly document. Obviously, it's, something I can bring back with the fire chief, but just consider that, that there are, I can easily turn this 14-page document into however many you'd like to see. I think Jim Glazier at LAFCO, last time he asked for the raw data, think it was about 400 and something, but promise not to bore you with that, but I would just caution that it can get, let me have some dialogue, if that is the general consensus
No,
among the
that-
board.
Every director has a right to express their needs, their wants, their concerns, their dreams, or whatever. But as a board, no decision has been made. But what happens in a situation like this is something that could be very useful, but we don't know what it is that you need to do to get there. So when we do something like this, then you discuss it amongst yourself, and you come back, and you tell us what you can do, what you cannot do, what it really means, and half of the time, it also involves telling us if you need more resources to do it, which then gets into budgets and everything else. But I will tell you this much right now, having been in a position before where I was constantly audited by the state and federal governments, the last thing they want to see is board packets that are very, very thick with a lot of detail. You know why? Because in the political world, that is seen as a way to put a cloud over the elected officials so that they really don't know at the end of the day what they're voting on. So I wouldn't want to see what you talked about, this massive training. But maybe talking to the chief, it's something that even through the SWAT, once every 3 months, we get a breakdown. But at this point, you come back, and then the board agendize it whenever it comes back, and then the board can at that point decide what they want to do. But you are right, and actually, those numbers that are now part of the overtime were boards concerned, and I think you had a lot of input into that, Director Gleason. Boards concerned, but it was more the fact that when you have a lot of overtime, people truly have this feeling that you're wasting their taxpayers' money. So we wanted to give it more substance, so that we could explain, no, it was merited, it was necessitated, the money we spent was really needed. But without, I'm still, and Director Gleason knows it, we have so many other things that, we're kind of like in the fires of California. We got so many, we've got policies that we need to do here, things that we need to do over here. So as a board, we really need to set priorities as to where the staff resources are depleted. Maybe we'll have a planning session at one point. We say, okay, we're going to tackle this one first. We give you 6 months. We're going to tackle this one second. We give you 6 months. But it's impossible to ask you guys to do them all at once.
Call the question.
Okay.
I move that we adopt 8.4.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Gleason, second by Payton. Go ahead and do roll call.
Director Gleason?
Yes.
Director Gish?
Yes.
Director Payton?
Yes.
Vice Chair Coe?
Yes.
Chair Rhodes?
Yes. Okay, so at this point, we'll go to public hearing. And as you know, the public hearing, we will first ask for a staff report, then I will open the public hearing. I will ask people that are in favor, people that are against, people that just want to talk on it, close it, then bring it back up to the board for any comments of the board or questions of the board, at which point, hopefully, we can then take a vote. So at this point, it's staff report. And this is to approve and adopt Resolution 2017-12, 2017-2018 fiscal year budget.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will be presenting this item. Staff is presenting the fiscal year 2017-2018 budget for the Fire Board's review. Prior to this review, staff worked with all the line personnel assigned to individual projects in an effort to identify the needs of the district. The document in front of you today represents the projected funding needed to achieve those needs and continue with the day-to-day operations for the fiscal year 2017-2018. Highlighted in the blue, you'll see the changes that occurred between the final budget and the preliminary budget. There weren't many changes, however, there were a couple of changes between this and the final budget that we received at the end of the 16-17 fiscal year. So with that, our reserve in our general fund was able to go up just a little bit, as you see here. So left us at a better ending for the end of 18. And feel free to stop me as we go through and just kind of going over the changes. The opening balance changed a little bit from the 16-17, excuse me, was previously 534, and the 17-18 is 531, 426, which this one in the preliminary was about 430, so it was a big difference now with the remaining reserve fund balance. There's no changes to our property taxes, as we've kept those basically conservative estimates on those. License permits and all of the other revenues that we receive in plan checks and report fees, those are the same as what was presented in the preliminary. All other revenues also remain the same, and the miscellaneous fee revenues and the miscellaneous revenues here are broken down into what each category is.
Question.
Yes.
FEMA grant, that's not reimbursement, that is for what? It's the, fourth one down? So it's
Listed
FEMA
here?
grant, 0, but explain FEMA grant. What is a FEMA grant?
So that description is included within the revenue side of the budget in case periodically, in fact, every year, the fire district submits for grants from FEMA and the Department of Homeland Security. Those two grants are the Assistance to Firefighters grant, as well as the SAFER grant for staffing. One is kind of the equipment side, one is more the personnel side. So as those revenues or as those grant resources, monies come into the fire district, we really need a way to show those in the budget appropriately. And so where you see the FEMA grant item is really encompassing of anything that we would receive from.
But that's where we'll see the SAFER grant when we finally get through the process. It'll be amendment to that line item.
There you go.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And just so,
Yeah, and it'll come through an amendment.
yeah, and there are other reimbursement things that we're currently working on with FEMA that may also potentially come into that line item as well. We're looking at, the reimbursement for the flood, and those kinds of things, yeah.
Good.
That answers your question?
Yep.
Okay.
Go ahead, Becky, sorry.
Thank you. The expenditures for salary and benefits did have a slight increase. This increase was due to some of the insurance costs being for health benefits, and that'll be reflected more so on the next pages. But this was insurance, workers' comp, to reflect the current step increases and also the increase in the healthcare costs. This shows the rollover, what we were able to roll over from the 16-17 fiscal year.
Madam Chair, where are we showing our unfunded liabilities? And for retirement benefits?
They're not in the budget. They're in the audit.
Okay, but they're going to have to be in 2018?
Yeah.
Okay.
In the previous change that was requested by the board for the engineers and firefighters to be separated, it has also been noted in here, so you'll see the difference, the deficit here as far as engineers going from 15 to 9, which is now, and then 6 firefighters also for the 17-18 fiscal year. And once again, this change here for the salaries reflects those changes in the step increases and the current cost of living increases, as well as the, right here, which reflects the retirement, which unfortunately has continued to go up slightly. As wages go up, Medicare and Social Security go up slightly. Health insurance, it did go up a little bit Fortunately, it didn't go up much, as you can see. So for all of our full-time employees, we were able to keep the costs at a minimal. There weren't any changes to our regular day-to-day operations expenditures as far as in comparison to the final budget to the preliminary budget. Once again, no changes to the support or station and grounds budgets. All of these also remain the same. There's the increase in the workers' comp. The workers' comp is basically related on payroll and how many current staff we have. So overall, this is basically what our end of the year 17-18 looks like. So it leaves us at a pretty good position, ending at $183,000 for the 17-18 fiscal year. And this is our new 5-year model outlook.
And I want to clarify something. Most of our liabilities, such as health, vacation, overtime, we do budget them. That's why you have line items there. The Band-Aid on the retirement liability at this point is recorded in the audit. Now, what they have not come out with legally is instructions on how that will, will it ever have to be part of the budget? Because you really can't put what I imagine that what'll happen is that they will have you put a line as to how you're starting to fund it.
Correct.
So, so in other words, it's kind of like building, but it won't have the minus of whatever it is. That'll always be in the audit. That's my understanding. But they really haven't come up with a lot of information as to how, and that includes cities, all government entities. Now, another thing that and I really need to find more information, but through the conference, the way that they were talking about reserves, to them reserves includes anything that is not funded. So my question at that point is going to be, then is our reserve really a reserve for emergencies? Or is that already taking into consideration the unfunded liability?
Well, that's what they talked about, is that the reserve has to have a corresponding policy as to what that reserve is going to be used for and how it's going to be distributed if you need to take money out. And if you carry over, say we carry over 150,000, we can't carry over. It has to be zero. That 150,000 has to go someplace. And if it doesn't fit our reserve policy, then it needs to go into an account to be earmarked for the next budget. But it has to be marked for something. You just can't have it floating around out there. Now, my understanding is that on the unfunded liabilities, that the state legislature has given direction through law, but the administrative portion of the state has gone, we don't know how to apply this law that's out there. That's my understanding from the conference. So, in regards to disclosure to the public. So, anyway, that's two different issues.
And that's when I talked about we've got a lot of fires, like California, is that we learned about a lot of new things. And one of the policy, if you do have a reserve, you have to identify through a policy what that money is earmarked for. And our, manager here was there, so she probably has a lot of information in terms of things that we'll probably need to be doing in the next year or so.
Absolutely. One thing I would just hesitate to speculate on is the generally accepted accounting principles, the GAAP, and the generally accepted standards board, the government's generally accepted standards board that defines the GAAP. They regularly define how they want those things to appear in the audit and on the budget side of things. So I just wouldn't want us to get to a position where we're trying to forecast ahead of time instead of waiting for the regulation to come down.
Good point.
And then,
Very good point.
to make sure that in working with our auditor, that we're in compliance with whatever those standards and are going to be.
By the way, our speaker was our auditor. So that was a great part about
We
it.
have a policy for our reserve account. I don't know if it fits the new criteria as to how do we access it, or how the expenditures are dispersed. I don't remember reading anything in our policy about that portion, so we're going to have to revisit that and tighten it up.
If I can just make a side note as well, in regards to the audit, we have currently already started working on the 16-17 school year audit. So we are working through these changes that will be taking place.
Wonderful.
So we are looking at addressing all of those changes as the 16-17 audit takes place.
Very good.
Through the chair, page 11 of the report showed a $15,000 difference for the last 2 years. Oh.
What was the,
Keep going, number 11, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, there you go.
Administrative.
So is that in the contract with our dispatching services of $15,000 each year, or how's that calculated?
So the dispatching contract that we have for services is, it comes out of this fund as well. There are other expenditures that may be associated with dispatching costs that come out of that fund as well. We have to be cognizant that while they handle 99% of those things, there are things such as tablet command. There's an example. I mean, here's a product that we're actually saving resources or saving money on, that, you know, we may pull that from that dispatching account as well. And that's part of the mobile data terminals that we utilize in conjunction with dispatching. If that makes sense. Yeah, there's other things that may come out of that account.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, I will open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to come up and speak in favor of the fiscal year budget for 2017-2018? Anyone wishing to speak against? Anyone wanting to speak on the item at all? With nobody rushing up here, I will close the public hearing. I do want to thank staff, because through our process of budget started way back. So by the time we get here, we pretty much have gone through this so much that it's very, very clear to us, but for the public, it may not be that clear. So any other comments from the board, questions from the board?
None?
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Who said that? Oh, okay. I have a motion. It is to approve and adopt Resolution 2017-12 for the 2017-2018 fiscal year budget.
I'll second it.
I have a motion by Coe, second by Gish. Please do roll call.
Director Gleason,
Yes.
Director Gish,
Yes.
Director Payton,
Aye.
Vice Chair Coe,
Yes.
Chair Rhodes.
Yes.
Thank you.
And at this point, we will go to our schedule item number 10, which is to award the lowest responsible bidder and authorize the purchase of the UTV.
Our golf cart.
Okay.
Show us our golf cart.
Madam Chair.
We tried to describe this to an the guy from
I
the,
don't know if she wanted us, if she was part of the committee, if she wanted to speak or not.
Oh, thank you. Vida, did you want to say anything? We passed your item, but if you wanted to come up, we would.
Supposed to have been here at 7 o'clock this morning, I got stopped by a train. I wanted to just wait here.
We truly sympathize with you. We know how that goes, but it's nice to see you, by the way.
Okay.
so on this item, so we sat with someone from the Sacramento Air Quality Resource Board, okay? And we're trying to describe our golf cart. And he had some interesting descriptions of our golf cart, you know, with bells and whistles and ice chests and all kinds of, it's like, no. But, so it was a topic of conversation last week with the gentleman from Sacramento, so.
Well, that's good to hear.
Well, he was pretty proud of us that we're doing something,
That's good to
too.
hear. The item 10.1 is to award the lowest responsible bidder and authorize the purchase of the utility terrain vehicle. Staff is asking the Fire Board to award the lowest responsible bidder for the utility terrain vehicle and authorize the purchasing of 2 UTVs. The Fire Board authorized and approved the resolution for the Fire Chief to purchase the identified electric UTV under the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District grant that occurred in the December 2016 meeting. Staff applied for the Public Benefits Grant Program for the purchase of 2 utility terrain vehicles. After a lengthy process, we were actually awarded the grant, and the grant is starting to fund. They have initiated a contract agreement to authorize the project. Staff has identified the Fire District's purchasing policy, Resolution 2012, number 10, will apply to any potential future purchases. Staff organized and drafted specifications as outlined in the purchasing policy to identify terms and conditions to identify a lowest responsible bidder. In early July, the bid was published in a local newspaper as stated in Section 4 of the purchasing policy. In addition, the bids were published as per Section 4 of the purchasing policy and uploaded to the documents section of our website. The Fire District received 1 bid submitted, and July 17th, the bid was publicly opened as per Section 4, Item D. Staff has evaluated the bid and determined that the bid submitted by 777 Motorsports does meet the terms and conditions criteria as the lowest responsible bidder. And some of those, as an example, were warranty items, warning devices, grant approval, minimum drivetrain, etc. Staff recommends that the Fire Board move to award the lowest responsible bid for contract to 777 Motorsports and authorize the purchase of 2 utility terrain vehicles as outlined in the Fire District's purchasing policy, Resolution 2012. That should be number 10. I'm sorry. That's a typo. That's number 10, Section F. Minor increases to the Fire District's annual equipment maintenance budget, purchase cost to be reimbursed by the Public Benefits Grant Program. So just to be clear, this evening, our purchasing policy is very specific on how we're going to purchase these items and when we go out for bid. Understanding that this was already a topic in December of 2016, we did want to make sure, the staff wants to make sure that we are following the purchasing policy to the letter of what it says. And this evening, that would be to actually award the contract to 777 Motorsports.
And thank you for that closing, because our role is to ensure that there is a policy that covers this, and you guys' role is to ensure that the policy is followed. And with that, it's just kind of like a formality to award the bid for the board. Any questions starting on my left?
Arrival time.
Well, according to me, it can't come fast enough. But this, I will say that this is not every organization is as nimble as the LMFD. We move quite efficiently in some of these arenas, but there's a process that's dependent upon another organization as well. So let me tell you where we're at. First of all, the contract that we have, the authorized signee being the fire chief, reviews that, sends it back, not a problem. I don't anticipate that taking very long at all. It then goes before their board and their governing body for approval. And then there is a duplicate signatory that is a letter that's given to us, as well as a completed contract or what do they call it? It's not approved, but it's like when both parties have signed it. And then we get a letter to proceed. Once we get the letter to proceed and the contract is signed by their party as well as ours, then we can actually make the purchase. Once we make the purchase, then we have to wait for the arrival of the equipment, for the equipment to be installed, and then it arrives and we get it and we can bring it here to show you.
The largest event that we have is the corn maze. And it was brought up in our discussion as when we started this process, the availability of our staff, our guys, being able to access Are we still within that timeline? Do we have it here, October 1?
We're trying. I can't make any guarantees.
Good news for you, September 29th.
Okay, so
That was certainly the intent. But
started in September now.
unfortunately, not every organization moves at our pace, and we have to be cognizant that when we're using their funds to make our purchase, that we want to dot those i's and cross those t's, and make sure that that we're covering all of our bases and actually get our money back.
yeah.
That's, as much as I want to see it here for the corn maze, my biggest priority is to make sure that they fulfill their end of the grant as well as that we fulfill ours. Yeah, so I am hoping for that, but I can't make any promises.
That's all I have.
Yeah, any idea, do you have any, and you probably can't answer this, but any sense why we only got one bid?
You know, I would hate to speculate, but if I was just to throw caution to the wind, and I would say that part of it has to do with the project has so many moving pieces to it that as, businesses that are like the gym, you look at, Cabral Chrysler over in Manteca that sells the gym motor, or the gym vehicle. They're very open to a consumer coming in through the doors to buy a vehicle, sign the proper documentation, and, when it gets there, delivered to their store, they call you up and you can come pick it up. They're maybe not as in tune to jumping through all the hoops that we've had to jump through. I would say that would maybe be one of them. We've had to jump through a lot of hoops with it, and it's completely worth it, don't get me wrong, but we've had to jump through a lot of hoops to make this work. Other than that, I would hate to speculate.
Yeah, okay. Just off the top, do you know anything about 777 Motorsports?
Do I know anything about them?
Do we? Does anybody? Have we researched them at all? Are they reputable?
I've never purchased anything through them. I've never done any work other than this project with them. They seem like a very reputable company. In fact, I think that there's a little frustration on their end as to why this process can't move faster. Having said that, they've actually been a really good partner with dotting our i's and crossing our t's when it comes to, this is what, we need to see, and this is how we need to see it.
And they're the manufacturer? Dealer?
No, they are not the manufacturer, they are the broker for it, the dealer.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm good.
Co?
No questions.
Gish?
Nope.
Okay, I have none. With that, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Gleason, second by Payton. Roll call.
Director Gleason,
Yes.
Director Gish,
Yes.
Director Payton,
Yes.
Vice Chair Coe,
Yes.
Chair Rhodes.
Yes. So at this time, we'll go into informational items, and are you going to be presenting the chief's reports?
Let me see.
And I know that the chief had to leave for the Calaveras fire,
Yeah.
very promptly, so, we understand if you want to bypass any and leave them to him.
I can take a stab at a few of them for him. I know we've talked about these things at length at staff meeting. The firefighter test was conducted on July 15th. July 15th, we had 92 applicants take that test. We've thanked them publicly on our website in an effort to keep that current. We just received today the results of that, and we'll be moving forward here shortly in the next steps of the process. We need to compile that data and make notifications for those that will be moving on in the next phase. The captain's test, we have the test booklets in. We had a date scheduled, and the county of Mariposa is currently on fire right now, and that may delay that process a little bit. So Becky and I were just talking about that today, as a matter of fact. So we're going to be rescheduling that date. It was scheduled for the 24th, but we want to make sure that those that obviously have applied to get the opportunity to do so. The battalion's chief testing is in the drafting phase. Applications have been received, and how many did we receive on that? 5? We received 5 applications for the BC's exam. And that pretty much concludes the update on staffing and testing.
Couple questions.
Yep.
For the BC's test, were all the applications internal? Were there any outside people to apply for battalion chiefs? Were they capable of applying? People from other departments?
Good.
No, that was an in-house promotional.
In-house promotion, okay. And on the firefighters test, of the 92, I think you said, do we know how many were women?
Yes, there were 2. There were 2 women. And of course, we obviously don't make that our sole determination in any hiring or anything like that. But yes, there were 2 female applicants, and there were more than a host of diverse candidates.
Yeah, it's just a measure on our SWOT in regards to diversity. How are we doing our community outreach to bring in,
Yeah, and I think I know that I'm trying to reevaluate those things consistently, at how we can, where is that message at? Where do we have to go to get that message out? I've got some ideas that are coming up that are starting to kind of get they're kind of going from fuzzy to clear, if that makes sense. We've got a very diverse high school population. I'll say that. We've got a very diverse high school population.
Like LA County this summer did a summer school, a camp. I think it was called girl, female, something, gender specific, fire academy. And they were innovating. It was pretty interesting because they were on the dummies that you would use, like at St. Joseph's, where they scope it, look at it, they were innovating, they were doing all these things to give them, hey, we do more than just put the wet stuff on the red stuff. So, and it seems to be pretty successful, whatever they're doing down in LA County.
But you do know that it is Director Payton's time.
I know, I was just throwing that out there because, I'm done.
You were done, okay.
I'm done. Pretty interested.
We always kind of barge in when you're talking.
I've been watching that kind of stuff. So.
Director Coe?
I don't think he was done with his report.
Okay.
Yeah.
That concluded item A.
Right.
The report on the fireworks, there's been a movement to kind of reestablish the Ladies Auxiliary and some opportunity with a 501c3. And so the fire chief is exploring some various avenues with that. And how we work that with the fireworks booth, those kinds of things. I will say that a 501c3 will be very helpful for our organization. There are other, organizations that have benefited from a 501c3 type organization as well. So that's one of the things that we're looking at.
Yeah. And another thing that the chief, but I don't want to put you on the spot, when he comes back, he can do that. But there was also some questions about in terms of the fireworks, the policing.
Enforcement.
And the enforcement. And so I don't know that he has the answers yet either, because both him and the police chief were very concerned in terms of the magnitude of policing it the way it was. Not the fire booths, but the craziness of the whole fireworks night, days before and days after.
We're still reevaluating some of that. There's some things that definitely worked very well. There's some things that really honestly didn't work very well. But that is something that we are looking at right now and actively engaging our law enforcement partners with. Yeah. And that concludes item B. Item C, the update on Station 35. I know that we had a meeting out there 2 weeks ago, and they are looking to break ground. They're having some soils engineering work done currently, and they are looking to break ground mid-August on that. Obviously, we've already had our groundbreaking celebration ceremony, but they are actually looking to turn dirt and start the underground portion of that project. And then, Becky, I know that you've been involved with Station 5. Do you want to elaborate on any of that?
As of next week, actually, the underground remediation will be started, which is the liquefaction on the grounds. And that will take approximately 3 weeks to get that completed. So after that will be when they start the underground utilities and foundation work.
Well, and they're quick builders.
Yes.
And they put a whole school together in 3 months. I wonder how long it's going to take them for a fire station.
Yeah.
Wow.
That concludes item C. Item D, something that I'm intimately familiar with, our solar project. So they have, tomorrow, we couldn't find the plans for Station 31 from 1972. So the vendor, Velocity Solar, had somebody come out and assist with some engineering work and some drawing work that needed to be submitted for the permit for our solar system for Station 31. They have the documents and the engineering back. They are submitting for the permit tomorrow. And I am hoping that we are very close to completed with solar on Fire Station 31 by our next meeting, our next regular meeting. I am hoping. So, and then they are also starting they're not starting, they're in the engineering process for the canopy at Station 34. So that's where our solar project is. I have relayed to them the board's anticipation and excitement that come online. So, and they are moving as fast as they can with it.
Wonderful.
It works. I have solar, and last month PG&E owes me $100. So it's based upon your usage, but man, it helps offset costs. So I'm looking forward to it. So these $1,500 a month type of PG&E bills, it's just going up more and more. So
Yeah. We have relayed the entire board's anticipation that the project moves forward and that we see actually some solar panels on top of the roof that we could take pictures of installed and working.
go green.
And then the update on the SAFER grant. Do you have anything on that?
No, we currently don't have any further updates. We are still waiting to hear the official awarding of it. They did start doing some awards as of last Friday, which they will do awards each, basically a round of awards every Friday. So hopefully tomorrow we may hear something. If not, we will wait till next Friday to potentially be on the next round.
I do believe that they are asking for more information that would lead us to believe that we're further along in the process, if that makes sense.
Wow.
And that is all I have for item E. And I'll let the fire chief, who, again, he is assigned currently as a division and strike team leader down on the fires that are happening. They are looking at potentially getting reassigned. Obviously that's dependent upon a resource order system that we don't have any control over. So, but he did express that yeah, that, he would like to be here, but his skills are needed right now.
There was a wonderful article in the Manteca Bulletin. I mean, it was very good for us too, because, I mean, they talk about him being the lead of Calaveras, how he was previously in the Mariposa, how we send the OES. However, they said that it was manned by Stockton firefighters?
We rendezvous with Stockton.
That's what it
Yeah.
was, yeah.
The other OES engines in the county.
No, but the way they actually put in the article, it's like they were on our engine,
This is interesting. If we have a moment, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah, but I think it's
I wanna report on
important.
this
But
stuff.
anyway, what I wanted to say is, it was it was a really good article, and it talked about our firefighters and, I mean, as giving so much and being there always, our engine. They talked about, it's always nice to hear that your chief is considered the main lead and, but yeah, we'd love to hear a little bit more.
So, as of the previous evening, they were still 14 division supervisors short in Mariposa County. So there is quite there's an opportunity that they would get reassigned with him having that skill set to be applied potentially at another fire. Having said that, we try to maintain our units a lot during the winter time, so that come fire season, we know that it's an extremely busy time and that those things are ready to go. And at the time, there were 2 other OES units that weren't available due to mechanical issues. Our unit, Stockton's unit, was available. And they chose to pick those 2 and send them on the road and rendezvous with Ventura County and other OES units that were out of Region 5. So the other thing is that there's a lot of experience for our crews to be able to go to a large catastrophic incident, and to be able to see how the incident operates, and then to learn that skill set, should we need that ever back in our agency, is invaluable experience. I mean, organizations literally pay tens of thousands of dollars in training fees for those kinds of experiences. And it's a really good experience for them to be able to get and bring home here. And just as an example, we don't have to look too far to see how that played out in the floods of 2017, where our organization, we were an extremely key component, as we should be. I mean, it was impacting the large areas of our constituency. And it worked very well, very well. So.
You put out a video with them leaving, and it was, I'm going to assume that was you, but it was nice to see the OES engine leave, and if I saw it, the public saw it, it's kind of like, okay, our guys are now participating in the thing. We get reports, but they're just word reports of where our engine and who, the strike team. And sometimes it comes from Lyndon Peters, sometimes it comes from, other agencies. French Camp, I think, Chief Manning put out a thing as to who's going out and those kinds of things. So it's nice to have that information go out to the public as to where our resources are being used in a multi-agency response. So I thank you for the little video in the morning.
I know, I reposted it over and over again, because
Thank you.
no, I loved it. I mean, you see this little greenish, yellowish thing coming out in the middle of the night, and it was very impressive. Anything else from the board?
Chief, I understand you had some strike team leader training experience. Was this your first time out, or? in that capacity?
No, this was my 7th or 8th time out.
Okay.
Wow.
I did, and I actually completed my Strike Team Leader Trainee task book. And so I'll be submitting that to the CICCS committee and their peer review for qualifications.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Are we on board comments?
No, at this point, we're just talking about
Staff
the
report.
report.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you have anything on the report, I just wanted to say one last thing, it is that of all of the times that the chief has, called me to let me know that, you've been called out or whatever, this one made me nervous, because of course it was pretty late and I could have misheard. But he said, well, we've been called out again. I don't think I'm going to be able to make the meeting. California's on fire. And when he said that, I was like, my first reaction was, what? And then I looked at the news and it was like, wow. But anyway, okay, so we will go then into board comments and referrals. I'll start to my right. Director Gish,
I have none.
Director Cole,
I was one of 4 directors that was able to attend the training. I'd like to thank the district for allowing us to go to that. I think it was very invaluable. And I hope the remaining board director can attend the next one that comes available. I think it was very good to see all the districts in California come together and get that kind of training for the board and their general managers as well.
yeah.
So, good stuff.
Director Payton,
I'm good.
Director Grace. Well, we know, I mean,
Okay, yes, I do. It was a good conference. It's the 3rd, 4th time I've been there, and it's great because you get new information. It's even though it's like on the same topic, finance, but new rules come out, and so you'll be able to take notes and figure out what the new rules are and what they're expecting us to do, all those unfunded mandates. You guys look sharp.
Yes. Second.
You should stand up and show the public what you look like. They're embarrassed, but you do. You look really good.
the last thing you ask a woman is to stand up and model.
So on a referral basis, next month, I'd like to see a report, something on how our electronic PCRs are doing. Are we through the learning curve? How's that working out? And then find out a progress report.
On what?
A progress report?
But on what? I missed the first part.
Well, one's the electronic PCRs.
Oh,
Yeah, because it's new. It's rolling out. We're like the example. So how are we doing on that? The other is how are we proceeding in regards to our advanced EMT skills? I think that's the only. Are guys actually being certified as advanced EMTs now with the additional responsibilities? How's that fit in? And lastly, open house dates. It's coming up.
so in the chief reports, if he can, if it's something that he needs to prepare, whatever, I mean, it doesn't have to be, on the open houses, yes, I would like to see that sooner than later, but the other ones, whenever time allows.
Well, if Acting Battalion Chief Jones oversees that, then I'd just like to get an idea of what the electronic PCRs, new technology, how are we doing, are we working out the bugs, does it interface real well, all that information. And he could give that report. He's just shaking his head, so.
Or maybe Jones can take him on a ride around with him and tell him.
The tablet, so it's not that, I don't have to leave the room, but that's all I have.
Very good. Anything else?
No?
Anything else on this side? And again, thank you to all of the firefighters that are out there battling those fires. You know, I kind of have started to hate this time of the year, you know, because there's always so much going on. To me, it's kind of personal in Mariposa. We used to have, you know, property, and I know those hills with all the pines very well, and I was trying to picture, oh my goodness, I can just imagine what it would be like to have to fight anything there. So with that, thank you very much, and this meeting is adjourned. We used to have the cabin and my uncles and aunts, they owned, we used to have a cabin in the bottom, and then somebody had one. And just to go up from one cabin to the other one, it was like in between pines and...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I stopped going up the one time that I saw a bear behind the bushes. That's it for me. Oh, Becky, I do have a question for you. Here, let me sign it.
Blue pen, that's purple. It's going down with the other thing. I didn't know there was one more thing to sign.
Is there?
Yeah, there's 2 things. I got ahead of myself.
No, I just noticed something, Becky. For the last 2 years, I haven't gotten a W-2 from the county. And whenever I call them, they don't have anything.
If you want, sign over top of mine, I don't even care.
Here's about the barbecue. But then I just noticed that mine is not